Welcome to Insured Investors, where we share practical real estate investing tips with an insurance twist. I'm your host, Brooke Beets. Let's get started. When structuring your insurance policy, the coverage form selected plays a significant role in determining which perils are covered for your property should a loss occur. There are three types of coverage forms to choose from: basic, broad, and special. Since each investor has a unique portfolio and circumstance, it's difficult to know which form to choose. To help determine this, we brought in Trevor Moss, Director of Program Sales at National Real Estate Insurance Group. Trevor started in the insurance industry three years ago when he found his passion for helping people aligned nicely with the hugely misunderstood topic of insurance. To this day, Trevor works closely with his team, helping new clients find the perfect insurance coverage. A fun fact about Trevor is when he was 6, he won the mutton bustin' competition at a local rodeo his dad was riding in. So tell us more about this mutton bustin' competition. Do you have any pictures?
I do have some pictures. I'll get you a couple. It's hard, I've lived life. I peaked at 6, and I've not been that cool ever since. I will get you some pictures, though. They do look like they were taken on a potato, or with a potato, so...
Where was this rodeo at?
It was in St. Joe, Missouri. So every year, St. Joe has the Southside Fall Festival, and they had a rodeo that my dad would ride in every year. And so when I turned 6, I was old enough, hopped on a sheep, and I guess I hung on the longest. So
decided not to pursue a career in sheep riding.
Yeah, that was, like I said, I peaked. It's kind of like when you play golf, if you hit a hole in one, you're done. That's kind of the same way. So.
Love it. Very fun story. Okay, so we are here to talk about coverage forms, basic versus special. Let's just start with the very basics of what is a peril.
A peril is essentially, a circumstance or an event that happens that will cause property damage or damage to, any type of thing you would have ownership in, like a vehicle or, an investment home, so to speak.
So the cause,
right,
essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with the coverage forms that NREIG offers.
So we offer both basic and special form coverage. Basic form is going to be a named peril policy. It's only going to cover things that are listed in that policy. Special form is another form that we offer where it's a named exclusion policy, where if it's not a named exclusion, it's likely to be covered.
Okay. Can we list off the perils that are covered under basic?
Definitely. Under basic, you have fire, lightning, explosion, windstorm and hail, smoke, aircraft and vehicle, riot, volcanic action, sprinkler leakage, and vandalism.
Okay. And how about special?
With special, you're going to get all of that, plus collapse, falling objects, weight of ice, sleet, or snow, water damage, theft, and then risk of direct physical loss.
Okay, I know that we sometimes get a lot of questions about water. Can you dive into that just a little bit?
So water, there's really 3 different ways to look at it. So our water damage coverage covers water damage originating from inside the home. So think of a burst pipe that were to leak out over the house and cause damage to the floors, the drywall, things of that nature. That's where our water damage coverage comes in. You can also, a lot of times people will think of water damage being from flood waters from the external sources that get in the home. With us, you would need flood coverage for that to be covered. And then lastly, the damage from like an overflowing toilet or a tub or a sink, that is going to be covered under something we have called our tenant protector plan, where that's like the sewer and drain backup coverage, which is not a standard offering in special form.
Okay, so it's definitely important for people to understand the difference between all of those and what 100%. Their policies do and do not cover.
100%.
What about risk of direct physical loss?
So essentially, that's going to that's kind of the all-encompassing, right? If your property sustains a loss and it's not a direct listed exclusion, that's where that coverage will come into play under special form. So it's kind of the all-encompassing, if it's not excluded, it's included.
Okay. I know another peril that can confuse some of our clients is falling objects. How do you define that?
So the easiest way to describe that is, commercials you see on TV all the time where there's space junk falling on top of a home, and they say, hey, we cover that. That's where the falling objects coverage comes into play under special form.
All right, so let's move on. You mentioned there are some exclusions in both basic. And what about, we do not offer broad, correct?
We don't offer broad. Really, there's no advantage. There's very minimal advantage to having broad form coverage. It makes most sense for our investor clients to either choose basic or special form coverage.
Okay. And within those coverage forms, there are some exclusions.
There are.
And what are those?
So the exclusions that we have, the standard exclusions, are mold and fungus, wear and tear, sewer and drain backup, earth movement, which is like earthquakes, sinkholes, things like that, flood, and then intentional tenant damage.
Okay. Can we buy any of those back?
Yes, there are some options within our program that you can buy some of those coverages back. So typically for flood and earth movement coverage, we have ancillary products that you can purchase that will fill those gaps, those coverage gaps. They can be added to both basic and special form. We also have our tenant protector plan that will offer coverage for sewer and drain backup. So if the toilet overflows, the tub happens to continue running, the tenant goes and tends to dinner, forgets that the tub is running, and it overflows. That's where that coverage would come into play. A couple things that we don't really offer a coverage on is going to be intentional tenant damage, and then wear and tear.
Okay. So if I am a first-time investor and I have a home, what are some of the things I need to consider for which coverage form to select?
There's quite a few, and our team is really good at walking our clients through that and figuring out exactly what they need, and we can kind of advise them in certain situations. A few things: the location of the property. Is it in the northern part of the United States? Is winter a cold winter, so to speak? Is that a threat to them for frozen water pipes? Maybe weight of ice, sleet, or snow. Those are important things to think about. Lender requirements. If there's a loan on the property, there are things that we have to do to satisfy that lender's requirements, which may dictate what coverage we can offer to the client. Are they flipping the property? If they are flipping it and there's a lot of materials that are going into that property that just haven't been attached yet, drywall, roofing, things like that, it may make more sense to protect yourself and have special form so that those materials that are going on the property are covered. It doesn't cover your contractor's tools and things of that nature. That's not what this coverage is for. It's more so for the special form coverage will cover the theft of those items, those like drywall and the shingles that should go on the property. And then last thing is their appetite for risk. Are they somebody who's maybe a more savvy investor, has some cash flow, and they can withstand a loss, and maybe they're just wanting to make a more economical decision when it comes to insurance? If so, we can look at basic form, but traditionally we will always suggest special form just to make sure our clients are comprehensively covered.
So thinking about what you said about the contractors, and just in my mind replaying, like, what is the difference between theft and vandalism?
So vandalism is going to be, graffitiing the property, not necessarily taking things from it, but destroying the property. And then theft is what you think. They get into the property, maybe they pry their way in, and they were to take a stove or, the fridge or the washer dryer, things like that. That's where the theft coverage would come into play.
Okay. So what about cost when we're talking basic versus special? Is there a big difference, a small difference? What does that look like?
It ranges. it's typically 20 to 30% in difference between basic and special. But what we try to communicate with our clients is that yes, that price difference is there, but the burden of proof in a loss situation will it changes whether you're on basic or special form. So on basic form, it's going to tend to be up to the client to be able to prove that, hey, it's under one of these 11 named perils, so it should be covered, and the insurance company would then need to agree with that. On special form, though, the burden of proof then moves to the insurance carrier, and so it's on them to prove that it's not covered rather than that it should be covered, like what the individual has to do. So there's some added value there that I think we always try to make the client aware of, because in a loss event, I mean, you want to make sure that the client is prepared for what could happen. So we always make sure that we explain to them the burden of proof is very important, and a lot of times is worth that price difference.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Okay. So now that we've talked about the coverage forms, we are going to play a game. So, to help investors better understand the difference between these forms, we thought we could play a little game. So I'm going to list off some scenarios,
okay,
and you are going to tell me which coverage form would be best.
Okay.
But with all of that said, we just want to make note that every investor should select the coverage form based on what their business model looks like and what kind of coverages that they want.
Yeah, just because we may list out that something is covered on basic form here doesn't eliminate the need for special form coverage, but it's just stating that, hey, you will have coverage for this under the basic form policy.
Perfect. Okay. So, high winds caused a tree branch to fall on my house.
That's going to be basic form under wind coverage.
Okay. What about the damage to the house?
That will be under.
That
your
is
property.
okay.
Yep.
A large amount of snow caused a roof to collapse.
So there, you're going to want special form coverage on, and what the coverage would be weight of ice, sleet, and snow.
Freezing temperatures caused a pipe to burst, making water spew all over the bathroom.
That's a mess. Special form coverage is what you're going to need there, and we always try to remind our clients that if you do happen to have a loss, there's always, the insurance company will always want you to mitigate the loss that's happening, right? So shut off the water, dry it up to prevent mold and fungus, things of that nature from coming about. Those remediation, attempts will always be welcomed by the insurance company.
Okay. Lava flow burns down a house.
It's going to be basic form under volcanic action.
All right. Someone breaks into my property and spray paints the walls, the cabinets, the flooring, destroys the outside, but also steals all of my appliances.
Okay, so we have some of that, which would be vandalism, which is the damage of the property, spray painting, things of that nature. But then once they begin taking things, it's going to be under special form theft.
Okay. A tenant accidentally starts a cooking fire in the apartment.
That's going to be basic form fire, and then there's going to likely be smoke damage as well.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to know about basic versus special?
I would just reiterate, we on the sales team sell about 80 to 85% special form coverage over basic. So while it may seem like basic form is the more economical choice early on, our clients are finding that it's better to have that extra coverage early on. You're going to pay a little bit now for a much better, more comprehensive coverage for a possible loss later on.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Trevor.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We will continue to post new episodes every other Wednesday on NREIG's YouTube channel. That's NREIG, and on Spotify at Insured Investors. You can also follow NREIG on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you have topic ideas or questions, please leave them in the comments below. We'll see you soon.